Alright then, welcome back to the Taron recreation build videos. It's been a while since the last build video, which was released just before Christmas, and that's because I've been out of the country at Disneyland Paris since before Christmas and till after New Year. Happy New Year, by the way. But yes, it's time to get well and truly back into this, and it's safe to say that I have started on what is the most difficult part of the recreation so far, and what I anticipate to be the hardest part of the entire build, and that is Taron's station building. Now, I know you've all just seen a bunch of shots of what I've been building, and you've seen the rooftops and the crazy shapes and stuff of Taron's building, station building, but I honestly believe that if I'd asked you before showing you those shots, what does Taron's station building look like? No one knows. Like, it is so embedded and nested underneath all the track that there's barely any photographs of it online. Like, it's been hard to find reference images even of just the station building alone, because you know, it really is hidden underneath the absolute nest of track. And the reason I say this is the hardest part of the entire build is because it's basically part of the coaster itself. All the rooftops need to fit perfectly within all the track segments above it. So if one bit of track is in the wrong place, it will impact the building, and vice versa. You know, if one bit of building's in the wrong place, it affects the layout of the coaster. So it's a very, very tough section of the build. You know, any other point, if some rocks are in slightly the wrong place, it might not impact the coaster too much. Likewise, when we build the Klugheim sort of town buildings over to the side, you know, if they're slightly too wide or sticking out slightly too much, it won't impact the coaster itself. But this is embedded underneath the coaster and in between all the tracks. So this is an important part, and probably the hardest part of the entire build, which is why I'm giving it a good go and a good stab now. As you can see, I've put some new flooring down, a trough underneath the coaster parked in the station, which will obviously be filled with green lights soon enough, like the real life Taron has. But I haven't done that just yet. I thought I'd leave that for a future episode, because that would be quite satisfying to add those green lights. Here you can see me absolutely having a fight with the pathing tool to make a very, very thin segment of track for the exit bridge. And I want to push this section of track here, this wider section, over just like that, and make it nice and thin, because right there on that corner of the station is where the op cabin goes for Taron, and you'll see me building that in just a second. But I thought I would start with the interior of the station, and that's what you're seeing in this sort of cut down time lapse here. But I haven't time lapsed the whole build of the entire building, because I just think that it would be more interesting for me to just show you. And after this op cabin has been finished, we're going to jump into the game itself and show you everything there is to this building, and just how insanely complicated it is, and how I didn't anticipate this being the hardest part of the whole build, but it has been, and I think it might be by the time this whole thing's finished. I genuinely think this will still be the hardest part of the entire build. And that's for a number of reasons, but I think one of the main ones is just how undocumented it is, and how there are just no photos anywhere of this station building. Well, no, there are photos of it, obviously, but I mean, like, it is very hard to see in photographs because of how nested it is within the whole coaster, which is basically hiding it. Anyway, it's about time we jumped into the game and have a live walk around of this insane building. But before we do that, if you would like to keep up to date with this monstrous Planet Coaster 2 build, then hit the subscribe button so you know when the new episodes are out, and it lets me know that you guys are actually enjoying this type of content. But yes, we're going to jump straight into the game now, and as you can see, here is the building as it is so far. This has been the most challenging roof I think I've ever built across both Planet Coaster games. Yeah, it's pretty mad. And one thing that you might not notice initially, just by looking at this, is the track has moved quite a lot since the last videos and since that POV video I released. One bit in particular are these two sections of track here. They need to be here because they both pass directly over the maintenance building, which is there. And they were originally up higher. They were about where this wooden roof is here. So that was the biggest change, the biggest movement of track that there's been since the last episode. And there's been so many more bits of track moved. Like this whole section here has been brought down, and so's this bit here. And these sections over here have been brought in tighter to the building because it has to weave past directly this rooftop here. So yeah, as you can see, it's not complete, by the way. The station building has some big gaps in it. It is not done. This has been more of a rooftop challenge than it has completing the entire building at this stage. But yeah, you can see that the rooftops basically carve like a path for each bit of track where it weaves through, and that is tough to get right. Really, really tough. But yes, it is so cool to be at this stage where it's starting to come together and look like the rooftops in the reference images I'm using. And yeah, so let's go down to peep view, and we'll walk down this very, very thin pathway, which is our exit pathway. And I have checked, it does, or at least I hope it should still work for guests to walk up such a thin pathway. Not if it was obviously a big crowded mass, but for the sake of how little amount of guests a train holds, they will all be able to fit up this mini pathway. But yes, here we go. We are in our very unfinished station interior, obviously. Our unfilled op cabin is right here. And now you can really start to see why I chose to do the underground technique. For anyone who isn't aware, the stations are a little bit fake. It's actually running 5 trains on this coaster, even though Taron only runs 4. And that's because there's a bit of magic, a bit of an illusion going on down here, where we're hiding a 5th train down here in order to... Whoa, camera. Well, I missed showing that off really well, didn't I? But yes, we're hiding a 5th train down there, and that allows us to keep the entrance, the load and unload stations really, really close to each other. So you can see the end of this yellow bit here and the start of this brick section here. That's how close the stations are to each other, and that's only possible thanks to this underground technique, sadly. And the reason that I'm saying this is because you just have to imagine what this would have looked like with... This already looks like a big gap between the trains, right? Parked. This one's in unload, that one's in load. And of course it goes off at this time when I'm talking about it. But you have to imagine an extra 4 meters on that gap. So that gap to me feels good enough. The trains are parked close enough together. But yeah, just imagine if that gap had to be... The front car of the unload train was like starting where the second carriage here is starting. I don't know if that's roughly an extra 4 meters, but yeah, it'd just be way too far away in my opinion. So that's why we're doing the underground technique for bringing the stations closer together. And we can go back up here, and yeah, here's all the complicated shapes that are... It's sort of a half combination of Planet Coaster roofing. So like these roofs are obviously Planet Coaster ones, and then obviously the arched roofs and this pointy roof here are completely custom. and the tunnel over the queue line is also just made out of little bits of wood. And something else, obviously, we've got all of these custom wooden catwalks made, and the brake run is nice sort of wood effect on the side of the maintenance building, and this custom sort of shaped chimney made out of, again, just some Viking stones and whatnot. So yes, it's a very different amount of progress, I'd say, to previous episodes. I feel like with the rock work, oh my god, this camera, with the rock work sections, like over here, obviously at the other end as well, I could make really cover a large area really quickly with progress. But with this, I mean, technically this is still quite a large area. It's from here to here, so that is quite a large space being filled in the center of this build. But yeah, it might not look as big and grand an update video on the build as some of the previous episodes, but my god, has it been the most challenging one, and I'm hoping you can see why. In the next episode, obviously, this station building will be complete with all of the holes and gaps filled, and the other side of it done, because obviously, as you can see, this side hasn't really been touched all that much. But it is looking cool. It is looking accurate to the real life images. To everyone who's asking, will it be on the workshop? It absolutely will be. By the way, this will 100% be on the workshop. Not as a blueprint, obviously. I'll have to upload it as a map, because so far, let's check the piece count on the whole build. I'll do this live on the video. 48,000, just under 50k pieces in this. So yeah, it's safe to say it won't be a blueprint. That ship has sailed, but yeah, it's definitely going to be on the workshop as a map. So once it's done and completed, you guys can come in and have a look at Taron yourself. But thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for the next build video where even more of Klugheim will be built. Make sure to subscribe so you see that. Bye bye.